Okay, let's switch to chapter 2. You said that, oh, I love this so much. You said God begins his sacred narrative, his drama of redemption, by calling on an ordinary, non heroic man to leave his home and take to the road. I see so much of myself in the beginning chapters of your book, and so much of myself in hobbits. They're like, they don't want to leave their cozy homes. They like what they have. They don't want to go out in dangerous adventures where they have no food, where the wind and the weather are horrible. They're facing all these monsters. I see so much of myself in hobbits. I'm not ashamed to say that. And
Yeah.
yet you send another spiritual punch in this chapter and saying God calls people like me, like you, like all of us who are seemingly ordinary people, just like everyone else, but he's calling us for something greater that will impact people and generations after us. Do you agree with that?
Jesse had many sons that were very tall and very strong, but God chose the little runt redhead, David. And how did he explain it? God does not see as man sees. Man sees the outside, but God sees the heart. Just like Frodo or Bilbo or Reepicheep, if you know the Chronicles of Narnia. The It's often the smallest that God chooses. I mean, why did he choose Israel? Israel was the smallest and weakest of the nations, and yet God chose them and lifted them. And in Corinthians, right, he chooses the small things, the things that are not, to hold up against the things that are. Abraham is an ordinary person, and yet he is considered the father of the Jews. The Christians and the Muslims consider him their father, their spiritual father as well, because this was a man who was obedient. He believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And this is where Christians understand that even in a way, Abraham was saved by faith, right? Even before Christ came into the world, Abraham, in a sense, was saved by the same grace accessed by faith. He left his home. And remember, Nicola, when you left, you could see movies of America. You could read books about America. You knew everything about America, right? But Abraham, nothing. There are no photographs. There's no movies to watch. God says go, and it appears to be a two-stage journey, right? First, we go from Ur of the Chaldees to Haran, and he seems to stay there a while, and then from Haran to the Holy Land. And yet, let us not forget, Nicola, that he called him to the Holy Land, but he didn't give him the Holy Land. He still lived there as a stranger in a strange land, as a sojourner, as a resident alien. And one of the places that comes up a lot in Genesis is this tree, this wonderful tree that people are going back and forth. And many hundreds of years later, it is under that tree where Joshua, who now is given the Holy Land, and he says, choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So sometimes the road diverges, doesn't it, Nicola? The Jewish people had to go south into Egypt and into slavery for 400 years before God called them back and gave them the very holy land where Abraham walked. So sometimes it's a long story. In the Christian world, we have to be patient, right? It's a world where the end is coming, but you know, what is it? 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord, right? For us, it's long. For God, it's all now. For God, He lives in eternity. We have to have faith.